So welcome everybody. My name is Ulf Alvermeyer. I'm a technical marketing engineer in the Open Source Technology Center with Intel. I'm going to be providing or giving you a brief MinoBoard program overview. Give you an idea of what the MinoBoard is about and what this platform can do for you. So I have a couple of slides prepared that I want to share with you. The MinoBoard is an open architecture platform. What that means is that the MinoBoard specs, the kernel design files, circuit design files, and the firmware for this platform are openly available. That makes it a good board for software development. It can also be used for products because it has and comes with various certifications already in place. For example, the FCC certification Type A and Type B, as well as CE for Europe. This board is already certified for, which makes it easy to pick up this board and use it for personal development, but also for products and customization of products. It's also a good board that can be used by IHVs, so hardware vendors who want to build additional shields. In case of MinoBoards, they're called lures for it. This board, when we get to the next one of the next slides, will have mini PCI or PCI Express signals. So you would be able to add take advantage of the high-speed bus and add a card to it, which would, in that case, for example, allow you to do things such as, with two mini PCI Express sockets, add an 8-channel video card to it, build a powerful little video streaming system. Information about this platform is available on the minoboard.org page. I encourage you to open up this page. You might be able to do that while I'm giving this talk. You can look at the page. You can, on the very front landing page, see the different SKUs of the MinoBoard that are currently available. Let it be dual core or quad core, as well as single Ethernet or dual Ethernet versions. So MinoBoard program highlights. Like I already mentioned, it's open source, hardware and software. And when I say open source, what that really means is that you can easily customize the bill of materials of this platform. You can add or remove components at will. You can install virtually any operating system on it, starting with Linux distributions, kernel 4.4 and up, Windows 10, Windows 10 IoT, Android Things, formerly known as Brillo, or Yocto project embedded build for this board would be feasible, or would be something that could be considered as well. Tutorials on what this board can be used for, a couple of technology showcases that we've previously built, and instructions on how to do that is available on the here in the broad development section on the minoboard.org page as well. On the firmware side, it's important to mention we're talking open source firmware as well. This is true for the firmware, which is based or built using the Tiana Core project to 95% of it. What's not open in the firmware is the x86 memory management controller. That's intellectual property that must be protected, that we cannot share. But everything else is available and open, and you will be able to, for example, do things with the UEFI firmware that this platform provides. For example, enable the trusted platform module, and it essentially enables secure boot, so that you would have a measured boot, and there would be no way to run an operating system unless the kernel for this particular build has been signed. Helps streamline path to product. Yeah, so what that really means is, and this is the most important one, is over here in the little brand name box. While Intel was behind the circuit design of the MinoBoard platform, this product is not branded or marketed as an Intel product. It's governed by the MinoBoard Foundation. And what that means is that if you take the design files, you add or remove components to this board, you customize it, you would be able to give it its own name. It wouldn't have to be called MinoBoard. It could essentially call it something else. That is what makes this a truly open platform. And of course, while MinoBoard is a name that we like, you might choose to call it something else. We see here. Then this reflects again which operating systems are available for this platform. Yeah, it repeats what was on the previous slide already. So the important point is time to market. And the fact that the brand name is not protected for this platform allows you to very much, take this platform and make it your own. Here we're looking at the Minoboard Turbo specs, the specs of this particular platform. In the picture on top, this is the dual-core version of it, which doesn't require an active fan, has a passive heatsink on it. This is not the case with the quad-core version of this board. That one, being clocked at 1.92 gigahertz, so almost 2 gigahertz frequency, does require an active fan in order to stay cool. This one doesn't. But then you see, there's the dual Ethernet option. It does have support for virtualization technology. So VTX support is there. That means you can run, any hypervisor, virtual machine, or, container on this board easily. It has integrated graphics. The HDMI spec of this board allows resolution up to 1080p. It could, in theory, do more, but the spec of the HDMI connector that we use for this board is limited to that. So would have to, essentially pick up the design, and if you wanted to go with a, higher or require a higher resolution, then you would have to swap that particular component out. It has a micro HDMI port, like I mentioned. It has a UART port. That means, you have the ability to, and I don't know if you can see my mouse moving on that. Here on the side of the board, connect an FTDI cable to it, and you would be able to get serial debug output at any time. That's convenient because not everyone wants to have a monitor hooked up to this board at any point in time. So just debugging using the serial connection is a good option. It has a micro SD slot, can be used for booting, because this device by default does not come with any onboard storage. It has the micro SD slot, or USB 2 and USB 3 ports, which can be used for booting if you use a USB mass storage device. Then it has, general purpose I/O, SPI, I2C, essentially all the hardware interfaces that you would expect. On the bottom of the board, which you cannot see in this picture, that's where you would find the PCI Express bus. And on the side of it, as far as storage goes, very important, it also has a SATA port. So, if you would need a abundant storage, a lot of storage, then you would be probably would be advisable to pick up a SATA hard drive and connect it to the board. I'm going to be racing through this presentation very, very fast. I got a 40-minute slot, and then we have 20 minutes for questions and answers. I'm almost at the end of it already. So we'll see how that goes. I hope you will have some questions for me when I'm done with my slide deck. Where do we see the Minoboard being a good fit? So, we Intel, what are we using the Minoboard for? We're calling this industry verticals. So industry verticals, we're having three different ones that we're currently targeting with this platform. One is transportation. Use it for user-defined cockpits. So essentially, the infotainment system built into the headrest of your vehicle, for example, or for with touchscreens, displays in airplanes could be used for that. Also, industrial. Programmable logic controllers. There's the soft PLC project, for example, that we're currently looking at, and using the Minoboard with an additional LUR that we're going to be putting on top with an FPGA to do pin muxing, to get very fast hardware access and be able to manage and address use cases such as factory automation, for example. And then, of course, because this device is very high, runs at a very high clock speed and has pretty capable graphics built in as well, it could be used for IP cameras, video transcoding, computer vision. Could you put OpenCV on it, for example, and use OpenCL in conjunction with OpenCV to do things such as face recognition, for example. That would be a good use case as well that we're currently looking at. Stuart Christie, Minoboard is supported by MRAA. Yep, that is right. It is. MRAA is a hardware interface abstraction library that makes it easy to do things such as GPIO, I2C, SPI, hardware access, just in case people wonder. I might just as well throw that out there as well. And then call to action. The Minoboard Turbot is available for purchase today. Yes, it is. And if you want information on where you can get the board, that's on minoboard.org as well. The top right corner, there's a where to buy link that you can click on. There's two ODMs that are currently selling the board. Actually, more than that. Netgate is one, ADI is another. I believe the board in Europe is being marketed by Amazon as well. So that would be a good choice. Then last but not least, I figured, given that I've been talking about this platform and what it can be used for, I think I've added or incorporated a bunch of slides from my last conference that I've been to was All Things Open in Raleigh, North Carolina, where we showed them or used the Minoboard to build a Kubernetes cluster. A Kubernetes cluster, which is what you're seeing. Whoa. This is in kiosk mode, so I need to be quick. This is the architecture diagram that would essentially show this. So you have your factory on the left, and then you're having various sensors that are connected. And this is on the last pic and on the last slide here. In this case, we use Edison boards, and then the data, going back to the architecture slide, is being sent from those sensor devices, the Edisons, to, we're calling them resilient edge service devices. So essentially, you're having 3 Minoboards, all of which are nodes inside a Kubernetes cluster. It's a high available environment. What that means is that you can have one device go offline, you can have 2 devices go offline. Only if all 3 would go offline, the service would no longer be available. And by service, I mean that the sensor information that we're collecting is made available using a REST API service, and this REST API service is then being accessed by a cloud application, which will display the sensor data that we've been collecting nicely in a nice way. So this is that is the last slide here, what that looks like at All Things Open, what we had set up. So you have 3 Minoboard, Turbot B, the quad-core version here, and 3 Edisons, which are the sensor devices. On the right screen, and I hope, there's a fairly high resolution picture. I hope this looks okay for you. You see the Kubernetes admin dashboard, and then the bottom right corner is a Skull Canyon NUC. That's a Skylake-based Core i7 device that runs the Kubernetes cluster and a local Docker registry that deploys all the software and services and images to the devices inside this cluster configuration. So that's one use case, a good one for Minoboard. People were excited about seeing that running, being able to run Kubernetes on a Minoboard and using it for that is one use case. Of course, there are many more. I think we'll thank you here. Move on to questions and answers, and I hope you will have questions for me. Thanks. Mickey D is asking about a GitHub repo. Not yet. There's a page where all Intel open source projects are being, or most Intel open source projects are being featured, called 01.org. Soon enough, when this demo will be made open source, we're going to be writing a blog about it, and this will be announced on this page. So you'll be able to read how this demo is being set up and clone the GitHub repository and set up a similar environment yourself. Minoboard Max versus Minoboard Turbot. The Turbot is the next generation. The Minoboard Max was the first one. I believe it came only with FCC Class A certification, which means it could be used in industrial settings, did not come with FCC Type B, which is something that was added with the Turbot, I believe. Also, the Turbot runs at slightly higher clock speed. It's the E3860, I believe. Go back to the architectures, to the spec slide to look that up. Yeah, 38XX. So I believe it's the E3860, yes. And no, Mickey, not at this point. I mean, yes, there's internal documentation that I've been working on how to make this demo reproducible, how to set up this demo. We're at 21, 22 pages by now. It's a fairly complicated process to get the whole environment set up. When we announce the demo being available, we're gonna be sharing the documentation along with it. It's gonna be in the GitHub repository as well. It's just not quite there yet. Work in progress. Stuart Christie, where can I buy Lures and what's available? So information about Lures you also find on the minoboard.org page. One is, for example, called the Silverjaw lure, which is essentially a card that exposes or gives you 2 mini PCI Express sockets exposed. So that way, you'd be able to, like I mentioned earlier, add a video capturing card to it, and mSATA in the other slot for very, very high speed I/O. An mSATA card, 64 gig, and a video streaming card with 8 channels, and then there you would have your little security system you could build. What future products are you planning? That's a good question. So we're in the process currently working on MinoBoard 3. MinoBoard 3 is going to be coming out in 2018. I cannot share exact date or quarter with you yet. It's going to be it will launch next year, and the MinoBoard 3 will have a couple of things that have been missing on the MinoBoard Turbo, which is, for example, it has onboard storage, eMMC, 64 gig, and also Wi-Fi on board. Narjal, expansion connectors to add. Can you elaborate a little on that one? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Oh, yes, true. Yeah, so using the Silverjaw lure, for example, that is an option as well. I mean, once you get 2 mini PCI Express slots, you could, in one of them, populate one of them with a, Wi-Fi Bluetooth combo card, for example. There's various versions of in mini PCI Express card size available that are well supported by the Linux kernel, so there are drivers available for it. In which case, yeah, Wi-Fi could be added that way. Or also, of course, using a USB Wi-Fi dongle. That would be an option as well. Thanks everybody for joining me. I hope you find the MinoBoard overview useful, and we'll consider looking at this platform for your needs. You're welcome, and have a good day, everyone. Thanks.